Alright everybody, what's going on? It's Thundershot, and I am here today with Qaamans Land. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
It is Qaamans Land, and alrighty guys, I am excited to do this little interview.
Alright, and that's what we have for you guys today. We're going to do an interview. I'm going to be asking Qaamans some questions. Some of them came from his Ask.fm, some of them are me, some of them are questions he thought maybe he should take a go at. But here we go, let's get started. So first question's up. How strong was Piccolo during the Buu Saga?
Okay, well, I've gotten this question from several of my subscribers, and I felt that I should help you guys out by answering this. I think that Piccolo was probably the strength of at least a Cell Jr. during the Buu Saga, and my reasoning for this is because Piccolo is always training. It's been 7 years, so that means he has a lot of time to get stronger. But the main reason is that Piccolo during the Dragon Ball Z saga, during the Android saga, he was clearly stronger than Imperfect Cell, and he was probably around the same strength of Second Form Cell, maybe a little bit weaker. So I think with all that extra training for 7 years, he probably would have been as strong as a Cell Jr., but definitely not as strong as Cell.
And this is Perfect Form Cell or Super Perfect Form Cell?
Perfect Form Cell, not Super Perfect Form. Super Perfect Form would mean he would be at least a Super Saiyan 2.
Alright, understood.
So I definitely think he's the strength of a Cell Jr.
Moving on to the next question. This is the great one that came from your Ask.fm. If Captain Ginyu managed to switch bodies with Gotenks, what would happen when the 30 minutes were up?
I have absolutely no idea. However, for whichever subscriber decided to ask me such a crazy question, I guess I could say that since Gotenks is technically Goten and Trunks at the same time, Ginyu would kind of be split into 2 bodies, so he actually has the power to control both at the same time, kind of like how Tien Shenhan can split himself into multiple bodies. But that's a really insane question, and I find it really interesting, and I'd love to share it with Black and Fist.
That is a lot to think about. Okay, moving on from here. Why did Vegeta never go Super Saiyan 3?
Okay, I kind of have a theory for this. My thing is that Vegeta, like Goku said, never really had the ability to turn Super Saiyan 3 because he wasn't in an environment where he can push his body to a more maximum state. So basically, because Goku died, Goku can push his body to a greater extent because his dead body can handle it more than a living body, which has more of a stress on it. And because Vegeta was alive, he wouldn't have that same access. Now, at the same time, even though Goku died, when he came back to Earth, he still kind of knows how to turn Super Saiyan 3, even though it has more of a stress. So his body is still somewhat trained to it, even though it takes more of a toll on his body. Whereas Vegeta, when you look at Vegeta, I mean, it would take him years to get to that same level. Now, I know many people are going to say, well, what about Goten and Trunks? They're just kids. How did Goten and Trunks turn Super Saiyan 3 as Gotenks? And my theory for that is the fact that Goten and Trunks, like I proved earlier in my Partial Saiyans, Full Saiyans video, they have greater access to Super Saiyan levels at an earlier age because their body is more adapted to it at an earlier age period. So because of the fact that, based on the fact that they can turn Super Saiyan at 7 and 8, that already means that they would be more susceptible to turning Super Saiyan 2 and 3. And that's why I think their bodies were able to do it. Even though they're children, their potential is off the charts, and that's why I think they were able to turn Super Saiyan 3. So as far as Vegeta goes, I just think he just didn't have the circumstances to do it. And obviously another thing that I need to point out is that since Goten and Trunks fused into Gotenks individually is stronger than Vegeta, I'm sure you would agree. Yeah. Thundershot. So since Gotenks is stronger than Vegeta, his body is stronger than Vegeta's, basically, even though he's a child. I mean, okay, that's ultimately my reason. Vegeta just never had the environment to do it.
I would love to hear more on that, but we are out of time for that question. So moving right down the list, what is your personal biggest problem with Dragon Ball Z?
My personal biggest problem with Dragon Ball Z? That's a very good question. I could even do a video on that. I guess if I had to pick one part of Dragon Ball Z, are we talking anime or manga?
Either or.
I think if I had to think of it, I would have to say my biggest problem with Dragon Ball Z would probably be the lack of using a lot of other characters that were really valuable in Dragon Ball and other parts of Dragon Ball Z. I think that would probably be my biggest problem with it, because it kind of got to a point where it's like, hey, you're not a Saiyan, you're completely useless. And if you look at Dragon Ball, everybody was useful. If you look at Dragon Ball Z, only the Saiyans were useful, and if you look at GT, only Goku
agree with you. Those were some of my favorite scenes. Like the scene where Tien holds second form Cell on the hole long enough for Krillin and 18 to escape. When Krillin jumps on regular form Cell. When he's completely imperfect, when he's base form, and saves that family in the plane and stuff like that. Those were some of my favorite parts too. And I agree with you that is an issue with Dragon Ball Z.
I definitely agree.
Okay. Who was your least favorite Dragon Ball Z character in the entire anime, manga, whatever?
My least favorite. I'm sure some people are going to dislike this. I'm probably going to have to say Majin Buu, the fat one. I just didn't like him as a character. I felt he was kind of funny to look at, but I just honestly just didn't like Fat Buu. I felt he was too childish and too hard to take serious as a villain for the series, and I felt like he destroyed the serious level that Dragon Ball Z had, whereas the Cell and Frieza were very serious villains, and I think Fat Buu just completely destroyed that.
Okay. This is kind of a big question, and I'm actually going to give you a two-parter. First part is your thoughts on Superman versus Goku, the Screw Attack battle, and then also your thoughts on Superman versus Goku, the epic rap battles of history battle. Go.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's start with the rap battles. I really loved it. There's nothing I don't like. I think Ray William Johnson and the other guy, I forgot, they did a great job in it, and I laughed my ass off. And as far as the Screw Attack, if they want to say that Superman was stronger than Goku, obviously as a big Dragon Ball Z fan, I want Goku to win, but I can understand their reasoning. I disagreed with a lot of the statistics they used because they were using Goku at different stages of Dragon Ball Z, and you have to factor in how fast and strong he was at those points. One other thing that I want to say really quickly about that I kind of had a problem with is the fact that you have to consider what Superman we're talking about, because there's some Superman that you might consider weaker than Krillin or Yamcha, and then you can consider some Superman a complete god. So I just don't think it was consistent on all levels, which is why I kind of disagreed with some of the things that they said overall in the big picture.
100% agree. All right, one of the last questions we're moving on to. What is your best fight that never happened, or basically if you could pick one dream world fight between two characters who never actually fought in Dragon Ball Z, who would those two characters be?
Well, this is going to sound quite weird, but I'm only really asking this question because I'm curious who's actually stronger. I'm gonna have to go with Super Saiyan 3 Goku and regular Super Buu. And the reason is because I've done a lot of research with the manga doing Dragon Ball Z videos, and I've realized that it's kind of inconsistent to figure out who's the strongest Majin Buu. There's some sources that you might say Kid Buu's the strongest. I know for sure he isn't. You could say Super Buu with Gohan is the strongest. He's obviously the strongest one. But when it just pertains to regular Super Buu, I would think that Super Saiyan 3 Goku might be able to hold his own against him. But then there's some sources that say he can't, but some that say he will. And just to conclude that debate, I would have to say Super Saiyan 3 Goku and regular Super Buu.
If I had a guess on that fight, I would say regular base form Super Buu. I would have to give Goku the edge, because with the way I look at it, I don't think Kid Buu was weaker than Super Buu until he absorbed Gotenks and or Gohan, but that's just my personal thoughts on the matter.
The only reason why I'm saying that really quickly is that in the actual Dragon Ball Z anime and the manga, once they took the Fat Buu out, Goku said that his power level was increasing and he was already in his regular Super Buu state, which is why I thought Kid Buu could be stronger. But it's very inconsistent, and I have to do more research to really get a final basis on things.
Understood. Last question, kind of a fun one, not Dragon Ball related. Who do you have winning the NBA Finals this year?
Yes, I plan to do sports segments in the future, and I definitely, well, I mean, are we being biased here? I'm going to have to go with the Miami Heat, because obviously I live in Miami. I'm a big fan of the Miami Heat. Ever since I was a kid, I'm not a Miami Heat faker, like many people who just started watching in 2011 when LeBron left Cleveland and Bosch left Toronto to join the Heat. So I definitely think the Miami Heat can win it this year. I think resting Dwayne Wade was a very smart move on behalf of the organization. But at the same time, I think that the West is so competitive this year. I mean, when you look at the Western Conference, you see that you have the Oklahoma City Thunder, you have the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, you had teams like the Clippers and Golden State that can easily be like a third or a fourth seed if they were in the Eastern Conference. So I think that to the Miami Heat's advantage, one thing is that since a lot of those teams are really competitive, they're going to get so exhausted by the time they get to the finals that the Heat are going to have an advantage because they basically blew past the Charlotte Bobcats. And, you know, we struggled a little bit against the Brooklyn Nets, but it wasn't too bad. And then Indiana, we don't know how this is going to turn out. We're currently beating them 2-1, so I think that series is probably going to go 5 games. Miami's going to take Indiana out. And I definitely think we can come out. However, if I do have to pick a Western Conference team to come out, I'm going to have to go with the Spurs. They got blown out tonight by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And ironically, I found that hilarious because the score ended up not being too bad. They lost 97-106, but it was crazy. I mean, they were getting blown up by Oklahoma City when it came to the fourth quarter, and overall, Popovich just gave up. He just took out all of his starters, and then he put in his second-tier squad. And then Oklahoma City put in their second-tier squad, but the Spurs are such a better team that the second-tier squad cut the gap to only 9 points. So
Westbrook and Durant are just too young. They can go the entire game.
Yeah, that's another. And Ibaka, don't forget Ibaka came back to play.
Definitely.
So that had a great impact. Ibaka had 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 blocks. He was a great rim protector. He stopped a lot of penetration from Tony Parker. And you know how Tony Parker likes to hit mid-range jump shots and attack the basket. And Tim Duncan had a harder time scoring, along with Tiago Splitter, also known as Beavis, from Beavis and Butthead. So I think that the presence of Ibaka makes a big difference, but I definitely think Oklahoma City has to win because San Antonio has to win because they have so much all-around depth and they play really well as a team.
Yeah.
If you look at the game, like Westbrook really got hot. Like Westbrook was incredible that game. Kevin Durant, I mean, he did pretty well too. I don't remember how many points he came out with. Ibaka played great, and also the crowd too. I mean, they were in Oklahoma City, and we all know that Oklahoma City, those fans are insane. Like getting that amount of enlightenment from your crowd just definitely pumps up the whole game. So I truly think that the Spurs are gonna beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in maybe 6 games, and then they're gonna play Miami in the finals.
Yeah, to me the Spurs are just getting a little bit too old. But correct me if I'm wrong. If Miami wins this year, it's a 3-peat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's going to wrap it up here. We're out of questions for the day, but I want to thank everyone for coming out. Thank you, Qaamans, for answering all these questions we've got lined up. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, just please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and to subscribe to me, the Black and Fist, and Thundershot. But remember, as I always say in every single video, Thundershot, I'm sure you can finish my sentence.
Have a nice day.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. He has seen enough of my videos to know. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say in every single video, to have a great day, guys.
Later.